Good evening. Welcome to our annual town meeting on May 4th, 2026. It is being broadcast live on Sandwich Community Television. Commander Torville, please lead the color guard in the presenting of our nation's colors. Please welcome Boy Scout Troop 47 to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
You guys can come all the way out. Come all the way up. Thank you, Representative.
Would you all please follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Troop salute. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I now have the privilege of welcoming Caroline Seymour of Sandwich Soul to perform the Star-Spangled Banner.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
That was wonderful. Thank you so much. Father Jack Schrader of Corpus Christi will now lead us with our invocation.
On one occasion in the night, the Lord appeared to King Solomon in a dream and asked him, "What would you like me to give you?" Solomon answered, "You always showed great love for my father David, your servant. O Lord, you have let me succeed my father as king, even though I am very young and don't know how to rule. So give me the wisdom I need to rule your people with justice, and to know the difference between good and evil. Otherwise, how would I ever be able to rule this great people of yours?" The Lord was pleased that Solomon had asked for this, and so he said to him, "Because you have asked for the wisdom to rule justly, instead of long life for yourself or riches or the death of your enemies, I will do what you have asked. I will give you more wisdom and understanding than anyone has ever had before or will ever have again." In this 250th year of American independence, we gather here to exercise the duty of self-governance, hard fought and won by our forebears, especially the members of our own community and the members of our armed services, whose memory we will honor at the end of this month on Memorial Day. And although we are many more centuries away from King Solomon, let's commit to the same humility, seeking true wisdom from on high for the common good of the people of our town, Sandwich. Help us, Almighty God. Amen.
I now welcome Dave Sampson to give a short presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Before tonight's meeting begins, I wanted to take a few moments to recognize those who have been instrumental to our town and embody the spirit of our community. This week will conclude 9 years of service by Selectman Robert George. Mr. George is a townie through and through, which is emphasized by his lifetime of service to Sandwich. He was Sandwich's most senior firefighter paramedic, serving 48 years with the Sandwich Fire Department until his retirement in 2016. During that time, he also served on the planning board for 6 years, and immediately after his retirement, he ran for selectman and served 3 consecutive terms. If you know Mr. George, I'm sure you would agree that we have enough material to roast him for the next 3 hours. Bobby has continued to work tirelessly for our residents over these last 9 years. He is a man who will do anything for anyone, at any time. I would like to share 2 brief stories from our time as selectmen that demonstrate his character. Don't worry, they're appropriate. During the middle of a storm, around 10 p.m., a widespread power outage impacted the Sandwich Food Pantry. I became involved through a Facebook post, and we didn't have many solutions at the time. Who are you gonna call? Bobby George. Bobby loaded his own generators and fuel and was on site within 20 minutes. When we didn't have enough power, he made some phone calls, and we were off to pick up a generator trailer to meet the food pantry's needs for the night. Bobby had the resources to save the day. In 2021, during a late-night executive session at Historic Town Hall, 2 individuals burst into the auditorium yelling for help. A motorist had driven straight into Mill Creek across the street. We rushed from the room. Bobby went to his truck where his medical gear was waiting just inside the back tailgate. He jumped the fence, climbed into the partially submerged vehicle, and assisted the motorist to exit safely in the blink of an eye. Service and helping others are core to Bobby's being. Bobby, thank you for your longtime service to our town and residents. If you could please come forward, we have a citation from the State House to recognize your service.
From the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, House of Representatives, be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers our sincerest congratulations to Robert Bobby George in recognition of your unwavering dedication to our Sandwich community through your 48 years of service to the Sandwich Fire Department and 9 years with the Sandwich Select Board, the entire membership, which is 160 men and women elected to serve 8 million, extend our very best wishes and express the hope for future good fortune and continued success in all your endeavors. Given this, the 4th day of May, 2026, from the State House in Boston, Massachusetts, where American freedom was born 250 years ago this year, by the Speaker of the House, Ronald Mariano, by my friend Jim Dever, who's here with me tonight, and me, your state representative, Stephen Exaros. Congratulations.
I'd just like to thank everybody in this community. Been a hell of a ride. And I'm gone, but not forgotten. And as Mr. Dunham says, we're going to miss you. I said, I don't think you will, because I'm going to be here all the time anyway. So you know me from before. I was very vocal at town meetings and whatnot, and I get 6 or 7 calls a week from people needing things, needing help, questions, and I won't be serving on the board, but I'm going to be around, and if anybody has any questions or needs help, don't be afraid to call me. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Missing from the auditorium this evening is our iconic concerned citizen from the beautiful town of Sandwich, Mr. Carl Johansson. Carl served in the United States Navy during the Vietnam War. He was an avid fisherman and a fishing instructor, a scout leader, a husband of 66 years to his wife Judy, a father, a grandfather, a friend, and a fixture in Sandwich for the last 30 years. Carl loved our town, and I think everyone here can agree that when Carl had something to say, he made sure that message was heard. He carefully evaluated projects and initiatives throughout town and worked to ensure we were on a path to the best possible outcomes that would serve everyone in our community. Elected officials, department heads, school administrators, or just about anyone involved with the cause of the day might get a visit or a phone call from Carl. These discussions were always collaborative, and those in-person visits often included a delivery of fresh fish from the canal or elsewhere. Carl would approach with concern, but he always listened carefully, asked thoughtful questions, and maintained a respectful approach. As I stood on the side of the road 10 years ago with a campaign sign, Carl rolled up in his Ford Ranger. I was aware of Carl, but we had never met. He came by to interview me to understand why I was running, my motivations, and where I stood on the issues. Before he left, we attached a sign to his tailgate, and our friendship began. We disagreed on a handful of issues, but it never impacted our friendship or the respect we maintained for each other. Carl provided leadership and input on many town projects throughout the years. Carl worked to ensure the proper recognition of Michael Haddad's burial plot in 2016. He advocated for accessible parking throughout town, including the accessibility of the Sandwich Boardwalk. And one of his greatest efforts was his work with American Legion Post 188 to establish the Vietnam Veterans Memorial and to name Eaton Veterans Memorial Park. He was dedicated to recognizing and preserving the memory of those who served our country. Carl never sought recognition for this work, but I was happy to ambush him on a couple occasions, including 2019, when he received the Town of Sandwich Volunteer of the Year Award. I want to thank the members of American Legion Post 188 for providing our color guard this evening and for answering the call to service last year when Carl needed assistance following his wife's fall. This was set to be Carl's 30th year attending town meeting in Sandwich. Carl called me about 10 days before he passed to let me know about his health challenges and to express his disappointment about being unable to attend this town meeting. I told him I would ensure he was here if it was at all possible. But he knew. That was the last time we spoke. Carl, thank you for your care, friendship, dedication, and many contributions to the town of Sandwich. Your efforts will be remembered for many years to come. I'm very aware there are a couple of projects left on your list. I will do my best to see them through. Please join me in a moment of silence for our unofficial mayor, concerned citizen, and friend, Carl Johansson. Peace and prayers to our friend Carl. Peace and prayers.
I had the pleasure of speaking with Superintendent Joe Maruschek just before the meeting, and he informed me that they'll be putting a plaque on his seat, so he will be remembered in perpetuity. So, thank you to him. Thank you for taking part in our annual town meeting. Democracy isn't a spectator sport, and you are on the field tonight. I encourage you to speak your mind. However, when you do come up to speak, do so from the podium, not your seat. Keep it clear, concise, and on topic. Be respectful, avoid inflammatory rhetoric and redundancy. There are limits of 5 minutes for your initial statement and 2 minutes for any follow-up. There is a timer visible for you to keep track of how long you are speaking, and our time clerk will be keeping me informed of that as well. On page 28 of your warrant is a QR code that'll bring you to our town meeting reference guide. This will go over motions and many of the frequently asked questions about town meeting. Our voting will be completely electronic, and here's Taylor White to go over the voting process.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. When everyone checked in, they were given the town meeting clickers. For those of you, if your first time at this meeting, I'll just explain. If those who have used these for the last few times, just as a refresher, there's a yes/no button, fairly simple. When the moderator calls for a vote on any given question, he'll leave the opening for 30 seconds, about
Yes.
30 seconds. You can choose yes/no on your clicker. You can choose yes/no back and forth as many times as you want. Once the 30 seconds is expired, your vote is cast. Just to test them out, I'm just going to put up a sample question real quick. Fairly non-controversial, we'll see. So if you just want to just test your clicker, it does go to sleep to save the battery, but when you press the button, you will see it register either a 1 or a 2. That's a yes or a no. So if you just want to just click them right now just to get a sample feel for it. See how many people don't like ice cream.
Could have a late push from the lactose intolerant lobby, I don't know.
All right, I'm going to call the question. Wow, 90 people. All right. So it's fairly simple. If during the meeting your clicker does not work, where it's not registering a number when you press either yes or no, go out to the check-in table, hand them the clicker that is no longer working, and they will provide you with a new one. Are there any questions about this before we proceed? Seeing none, I'll hand it back to you, Mr. Moderator.
Very good, thank you. And with that, Article 1.
Article 1. Move that the town accept the report of all town officers and committees as printed in the 2025 annual town reports, and hear the report of the Board of Selectmen on fiscal year 2027 long-range plan.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. We will open the voting. And just a reminder, when you do come up to speak, please come to the center podium. Time has expired. The article passes.
Okay, if I may. Article 2, move that the town hear the report of the Finance Committee and raise and appropriate $96,633,182. Transfer and appropriate $2,661,569 from free cash. Transfer and appropriate $53,500 from Sandwich Marina Enterprise Fund. Transfer and appropriate $20,000 from the Sandwich Hollows Golf Club Enterprise Fund. Transfer and appropriate $20,000 from the Department of Public Works Sanitation Division Enterprise Fund. Transfer and appropriate $12,500 from the Waterways Fund. Transfer $85,000 from the Opioid Settlement Fund as approved by the Board of Selectmen. Transfer and appropriate $2,225,000 from the Ambulance Fund receipts reserved for appropriation account. Transfer and appropriate $23,500 from the Water Infrastructure Investment Fund. Transfer and appropriate $40,000 from Library State Aid. Transfer and appropriate $75,000 from the Western Fund. Transfer and appropriate $433,786 from the beach parking receipts reserved for appropriation account. Transfer and appropriate $37,500 from cemetery trust funds. Transfer and appropriate $27,000 from the Hoxie Gristmill receipts reserved for appropriation account. And transfer and appropriate $200,000 from the In Good Health donation account to defray town expenses for the fiscal year 2027 as itemized in the third column entitled Fiscal Year 2027 Recommended Appropriation as printed in the warrant under Article 2, and set the compensation of elected officials are as follows. Moderator, $500. Chairman, Board of Selectmen, $7,000. Selectmen, 4 each, $3,500. Chairman, Board of Assessors, $2,500. Assessors, 2 each, $2,000. Town Clerk, $109,715.
Second.
Thank you.
Good evening. On behalf of your Finance Committee, we have reviewed the proposed fiscal year 2027 operating and capital budgets and are providing our recommendations on each warrant article this evening. The fiscal 2027 budgets reflect level service spending with increases for both the town and schools below 3%. But those modest increases continue to mask underlying pressures. Health insurance and benefits costs are rising, and they're not temporary. And tuition-related expenses, including charter schools and vocational assessments, continue to grow and add complexity. At the same time, about 79% of the town's revenue comes from property taxes, which limits flexibility and means most cost increases ultimately fall on taxpayers. Looking ahead, Sandwich faces significant capital and infrastructure needs, school facilities, public safety buildings, wastewater, and road maintenance. These are long-term decisions that will require careful planning, financing, and consideration of their impact on residents' tax bills. As these projects are evaluated, it will be important to clearly outline their potential impact on the town's financial outlook and on taxpayers, so the community can better understand the decisions ahead and their implications. Simply put, the town is financially sound today, but the decisions ahead will simply shape what residents pay in the years to come. The Finance Committee recognizes the importance of disciplined, coordinated planning, and we will continue to work collaboratively across town boards and with the town staff. We respectfully submit our recommendation for town meeting consideration, and for Article 2, the Finance Committee recommends its passage with a majority vote of 7 yes and 1 no. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you very much.
The FY27 budget being recommended tonight is very safe in terms of revenue projections, estimated local receipts, capital budget, and operating budgets. Through a conscious effort to mitigate tax increases while still maintaining public services, it has been balanced significantly below our allowed tax levy limit. As we have highlighted in prior years, local government remains the only level of government requiring a balanced budget, and even in uncertain times, Sandwich remains in excellent financial condition. On pages 6 and 7 of the warrant, there's a detailed description of the budget by departmental account, and on page 33, you will find a one-page summary of the total general fund FY27 budget. The budget summary from page 33 is being projected on the wall. The Finance Committee budget message provides an excellent highlight of some of the primary issues we focused on over the last few years, and especially the last 6 months leading up to tonight. In addition to these remarks, there are some key points that should be highlighted about the recommended FY27 budget. Overall funding. The overall funding for FY27 being recommended in all financial articles tonight equates to a 2.92% increase over the FY26 budget approved last May. When converted to an impact on the average homeowner's tax bill for a home assessed at $767,200, this equates to an increase of $230 for the upcoming year, or $30 for every $100,000 in home valuation. This is the projected impact for all the financial articles recommended tonight, not just Article 2. In fact, all the other financial articles on the warrant after Article 2 are funded by sources other than taxes. Operating budgets. The initial operating budgets presented by the town and school this winter equated to what amounts to level service operations, both coming in at less than a 3% increase. Throughout the extensive review process by the Select Board, School Committee, and Finance Committee, no substantive changes were made to the overall budget. What is recommended tonight is the lowest combined increase in many years. There are very few funding initiatives added to departmental operations, but some funding has been shifted to place these costs in more appropriate budget accounts. Some of the highlights of what's been changed within the FY27 budget include 3 oversight positions have been moved from other budget accounts to the Select Board Town Manager budget. These are not new positions, but a movement of the positions to the appropriate budget. The net impact of these changes is $0. Additional funding has been added to the personnel expenses line to cover some upcoming personnel changes and anticipated retirements in some smaller departments, and moderate increases for some rising cost centers, such as legal and professional services and IT expenses. Importantly, general government operating budget projections for the next several years show very straightforward level service budget requests with some very significant savings forthcoming when a regional dispatch operations commence and some debt funded inside Proposition 2.5 is fully paid off, both occurring around FY30. Stabilization Fund, and OPEB Trust Fund. The recommended FY27 budget makes an appropriation for the 12th straight fiscal year to both the Stabilization Fund and the OPEB Trust Fund, a very positive financial sign that we are increasing our emergency reserves and adding and addressing future costs of retirees. Our hope is that by continuing to increase these balances, municipal bond rating agencies may raise our bond rating, thereby lowering future debt costs as we get ready to implement our wastewater requirements and address additional building needs. Capital budget and other services. Significantly, we are focusing more than $5.1 million on capital and special articles recommended tonight. We are funding these improvements from existing sources like our free cash certification, the Water Infrastructure Investment Fund, our Enterprise and Community Preservation Act funds. Even though Article 2 focuses on our overall general fund budget for the upcoming fiscal year, there are some larger required capital projects that will likely need to be submitted to voters over the next decade through debt exclusion requests, if approved by the Select Board. These include a new DPW facility and downtown fire substation project, future building maintenance and improvements at our 3 public schools, and addressing long-term wastewater requirements. These needs are multi-year efforts and are currently being analyzed and will only be presented to the public once additional information is known, some several years from now. The size and scope of these projects cannot be addressed within our levy limit and are excellent examples of why debt exclusion ballot questions and the extensive corresponding public review and approval process exist. Again, none of these larger picture capital needs are before us tonight or are part of Article 2. Health insurance costs. We have all heard what is happening with health insurance costs nationally and regionally. Fortunately, Sandwich's health insurance increases have not been as high as many other private and public sector employers, but we have still experienced an overall rate increase of about 16% over a 2-year period. We have implemented many cost containment and wellness efforts, but like all other employers, we'll be monitoring these costs moving forward. Fortunately, the town's migration to a much larger municipal health insurance group about a decade ago has saved us a significant amount of costs compared to other groups. Excess levy capacity. We are presenting a balanced budget tonight that does not use more than $3.75 million in tax levy capacity that the town could ask voters to fund. Snow and ice deficit. For the first time in more than a decade, the difficult winter we all experienced caused us to have a snow and ice deficit during FY26. Rather than carrying this deficit forward into FY27, as we're allowed to do by law, we believe it's financially more prudent to cover this shortfall in FY26, which is what we will do in Article 6. A caveat on state aid and assessments. At every annual town meeting, we point out that we are voting on projected state funding amounts that will not be finalized until July or later. In preparing the recommended FY27 budget, we have been very conservative in our revenue assumptions and careful with our estimated expenses. So, based on what the Governor and House have told us so far, we believe the vote being recommended this evening is very safe and will have a strong positive balance when state receipts and assessments are finalized later this summer. Again, the total recommended FY27 budget, including what is recommended in all the financial articles being voted on tonight, leads to a total estimated tax bill increase of $230 of what was voted last May for FY26. It's important to remember that Sandwich is in far better financial shape than most other municipalities. Our municipal bond rating remains at a strong AA+ rating, reflecting 2 levels of increase over the last decade, which is a positive reflection on our collective strong financial management practices and recent investment and progress in long-delayed infrastructure improvements. We've also made our most recent override last 22 years when our initial goal was to make it last 3 years. Cape-wide, over those same 2 decades, the other 14 towns have asked voters for just over 105 overrides, an average of 7 per town. Sandwich has had none. Importantly, more than half the towns on Cape Cod are asking for overrides for FY27, with many asking for more than one. Off Cape, even more towns have hit their financial limits and are needing to ask voters for significant operational overrides to maintain school and municipal services. Sandwich is in excellent financial condition, and unless a cost totally outside our control significantly impacts budgets, we should be able to continue for the next several years without the need for an override. If you have any questions about specific portions of the general government budget, the select board, town department heads, and I are here to answer them. School representatives are here as well for any questions about the school budget. Finally, the motion for the article related to the budget is one of the more confusing ones of the evening. The reason for this is we have to identify the various transfers that come from several other accounts other than taxes to help fund operating budgets and reduce costs. If you look on page 7 of the warrant, in the middle of the page, you will see a list of interfund transfers, which make up the transfers that are included in the lengthy motion for Article 2. Thank you for listening and for especially your strong support over the last several years, helping us accomplish some extremely important projects and funding organizational improvements that staff and local boards and committees have literally worked on for decades. Sandwich is such a special community because of your cooperative spirit, support, and the desire to move the town forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion? Just a reminder, when you come to the podium, please state your name and address.
There we go. My name is James Dever, 1 Sleepy Hollow Lane, Sandwich, Massachusetts. I not only rise as myself as a taxpayer, I rise as the president of Rolling Ridge Farm Homeowners Association and as the only member of the Finance Committee to vote no on this budget. The reason for the vote is simple. I've had many conversations with people, and it's about road maintenance. Last year, I spoke to somebody in our association, and he said, Jim, what about Highfield Road? I said, Mr. X, don't worry about it. It's going to be paved. We got a list this year on the Finance Committee of a specific list of roads to be done. There are 27 roads on this list, plus an additional 6 roads that require special attention on this list that we're going to give the DPW an extra $500,000 to take care of. So that neighbor, like other neighbors, said, let's vote on this budget. So this year, as a member of the Finance Committee, my second year, the DPW comes in front of us again with a road request. And I find out 16 of the roads for the previous year are on future projects, and 6 roads have been dropped altogether. And of the special roads, half of those have not been done. Now, I've got a lot of reasons as to why, and it's understandable why they haven't been done. But the question is, where did the money go? It's over, I counted over about $800,000 or so when you fund it out to the roads that have been pushed off to future years. And I'm sure those costs are going to go up. So the question many have is, where exactly did that money go? And additionally, is it even possible to pave 33 roads in 1 year? If not, then why are funds being requested for work that can't be done? This is especially concerning when that very department is asking us to trust them on a $10 multi-million new building. And yet we really can't figure out where the money has gone on the roads. I ask folks tonight to join me, to join the members of my association, those that have said come up here, and join those I've spoken to, in voting no on this budget until a clear audit is done, vote yes on transparency, and say, you know, let's vote for money that is actually going to pave our roads. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, for the time.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I will open the voting in just a moment. Gotta love technology. It's here to make our lives easier.
Voting is open.
Voting is open.
Ten
10
seconds.
seconds.
That's it.
Voting is closed. The article passes. Article 3.
Article 3, move that the town establish the fiscal year 2027 enterprise fund budgets to be extended under the direction of the Board of Selectmen for the Cable Public Access, Department of Public Works Sanitation Division, Sandwich Hollows Golf Club, and Sandwich Marina in accordance with the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, subsection 53 F and 1/2, and the following list. Cable Public Access, transfer and appropriate $463,000 from the Cable Public Access receipts. Department of Public Works Sanitation Division, transfer and appropriate $1,094,570 from the Department of Public Works Sanitation Division receipts and raise and appropriate $60,500. Sandwich Hollows Golf Club, transfer and appropriate $1,481,786 from Golf Department receipts and transfer and appropriate $180,000 from retained earnings. Sandwich Marina, transfer and appropriate $2,311,414 from Sandwich East Boat Basin Marina receipts.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
And the Finance Committee unanimously recommends the passage of Article 3.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will open the voting.
Hold on, it's not open yet. All right, voting is open.
It is open.
Seconds, Mr. Moderator.
10 seconds.
Voting is closed.
Voting is closed. The article passes. Article 4.
Move that the town set the spending limit for all town and school department revolving funds for fiscal year 2027 as printed in the warrant under Article 4.
Second.
The Finance Committee unanimously approves passage of Article 4.
Is there any discussion? All right, then seeing none, I will open the voting.
Seconds, Mr. Moderator.
10 seconds. Voting is closed. The article passes. Article 5.
Move the town hear the report of the Capital Improvement Planning Committee and transfer and appropriate $1,473,000 from free cash. Transfer and appropriate $450,000 from ambulance fund retained earnings. Transfer appropriate $150,000 from the Golf Enterprise Fund retained earnings, and transfer and appropriate $242,000 from the Marina Enterprise Fund retained earnings to be expended under the direction of the Board of Selectmen for the purpose of purchasing and repairing equipment, vehicles, and buildings, and providing related services as printed in the warrant under Article 5.
Second.
The Finance Committee recommends passage of Article 5 with a majority vote of 6 yes, 2 no.
Is there any discussion on the article? Please come to the podium. And state your name and address.
Yeah, hi, my name's John Luvatakis, 15 Ocean Road, East Sandwich. Mr. Moderator, Selectmen, Finance Committee, thank you for all your hard work. I do have a question on the first sentence in Article 5 on page 9. The first one says to raise and or appropriate or transfer $1.4,773,000 or any other amount. So what does any other amount mean? It sounds to me like a blank check.
No, the way, if you look at every financial article on the warrant, it includes that same phrase. It's the motion that locks in the number. And the reason that's done is this goes to print 3 or 4 weeks before. In the event something changes, it's the motion that finalizes the number. So you'll see on the wall, it locks in those amounts.
So then we're not voting on what's written in the book, it's what's written on the
Right, the motion is what, again, locks in the number, but the numbers have not changed from what you see in the warrant.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I will open the vote.
No, it's what's printed in the motions.
It's what's printed.
It's what's printed. This is the article. What's on the wall right now is the, sorry. What's on the wall right now is the article as printed in the warrant. All right, voting is closed.
Voting is closed. The article passes. Article 6.
Article 6, move that the town transfer and appropriate $300,000 from free cash to be expended under the direction of the Board of Selectmen for the purpose of reducing a projected fiscal 26-year deficit in the snow and ice account.
Second.
The Finance Committee unanimously recommends passage of Article 6.
Is there any discussion on the article? Seeing none, we will open the vote in just a moment.
All right, voting is open.
Voting is open.
Bless you. 10 seconds, Mr. Moderator.
There are 10 seconds.
All right, voting is closed.
Voting is closed. The article passes. Article 7.
Article 7, move that the town appropriate the sum of money received or to be received from the Chapter 90 state aid to highways program for highway construction and or maintenance of any state-approved road during fiscal year 27.
Second.
Jim.
The Finance Committee unanimously recommends the passage of Article 7.
Is there any discussion on the article? Seeing none, we will open the voting.
Voting is open.
Voting is open. You have 10 seconds. Voting is closed. And the article passes. Article 8.
Article 8, move that the town transfer and appropriate $38,802 to be expended under the direction of the school committee from the Sandwich High School cellular antenna lease. Receipt reserved for appropriation account under Chapter 154 of the Acts of 2009 for the purpose of the maintenance and improvement of the exterior athletic fields and facilities at Sandwich Middle High School.
Second.
The Finance Committee unanimously recommends the passage of Article 8.
Is there any discussion on the article? Seeing none, I will open the voting. Voting is open. Ten seconds. Voting is closed. And the article passes. Article 9.
Move that the town transfer and appropriate $106,670 from the beach renourishment receipts reserved for appropriation account as established at the 2013 annual town meeting under Article 23, to be expended under the direction of the Board of Selectmen for the purpose of funding future public ocean, beach, and dune renourishment projects.
Second.
The Finance Committee unanimously recommends the passage of Article 9.
Is there any discussion on the article? Please come up and state your name and address.
Bill Ball, 7 Wood Ave, that's in Town Neck. I'm here tonight to support this.
Could you speak into the, could you speak into the mic? Thank you.
Sure. Is this better?
Much better, thank you.
Thank you. Bill Ball, 7 Wood Ave, Sandwich. I live in Town Neck. I'm here tonight to speak in favor of this article. But looking to the future, Sandwich has two choices. We can continue putting sand on the beach whenever we have the opportunity to do so, only to see it wash away, or we can proactively look to the future for a permanent solution to our beach erosion problem. Failure to do that will result in a disaster. Our dunes will wash away, our marshes will be destroyed, and our historic town center will be flooded. This will happen. I would hope that looking to the future that the town proactively explores all opportunities to address the problem that has been caused by the Cape Cod Canal jetties. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, hi, my name is Laura Wing, and I live at 60 Saltmarsh Road. Bill Bowles and I are both officers of the trustees of Sandwich Beaches, and I'm here tonight to support everything that he is saying, and I wanted to add something to it. I'm sure most people in this room are concerned with all the erosion that occurred on Town Neck Beach recently, and we are getting comments from many people to that effect, and I'm here to say there is reason to hope for a better future. Despite our recent severe erosion at Town Neck Beach, to a large extent due to the existence of the canal and the extension of the jetties, we will continue to advocate for what Sandwich plainly deserves from both our state and federal government. We have 3 points that we'd like to make now. What we want to advocate for is the Army Corps has permanently designated Town Neck Beach as a place to receive dredged material from the canal, which is a good thing. The federal government, to be fair, could commit to paying to put it there. That's unclear at this point. We believe it should be no cost sharing. The second point I'd like to make is Ed Markey has been successful in getting our Section 111 project made permanent, which I'm very happy about that. The federal government, again, to be fair, could agree to pay for all subsequent replenishments taken from Scusset Beach. No cost sharing. And the last point I'd like to make in this, what we want to advocate for is the Army Corps has an offshore disposal site in the bay. For decades, they've used that site to put material from the canal, dredged from the canal. That material could be evaluated and made available to use as an additional source of sand to supplement the sand at Scusset Beach for subsequent replenishment under the Section 111 authority. The state currently restricts dredging sand from the Cape Cod Bay, and this restriction may soon change. Thank you for your time on this.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we will open the voting. Voting is open.
Seconds, Mr. Moderator.
10 seconds.
Voting's closed.
Time is up. And the article passes. Article 10.
Move that the town transfer and appropriate $152,800 from rooms tax receipts to be expended under the direction of the Board of Selectmen for the purpose of funding fiscal year 27 Sandwich Promotions Fund as established under Chapter 313 of the Acts of 2020 as printed in the warrant under Article 10. And further to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into a grant agreement with the Sandwich Chamber of Commerce and the Canal Region Chamber of Commerce for any of the purposes set forth in Chapter 313 of the Acts of 2020 on such terms and conditions as the Board of Selectmen deems appropriate, setting for the conditions under which such funds may be expended.
Second.
The Finance Committee recommends the passage of Article 10 with the majority vote 7 yes, 1 no.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the article? All right, seeing none, we will open the voting.
Voting is open.
10 seconds. The voting is closed. The article passes. Article 11.
Move that the town transfer and appropriate $1,600,000 from the Water Infrastructure Investment Fund to be expended under the direction of the Board of Selectmen for the purpose of further implementing the town's comprehensive water resources management plan as it relates to wastewater planning, design, construction, implementation, and infrastructure, and all incidental and related expenses, including all uses under General Law, Chapter 40, subsection 39M.
Second.
The Finance Committee unanimously recommends the passage of Article 11.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the article? All right, seeing none, the voting is open. 10 seconds. Voting is closed. The article passes. Article 12.
Mr. Moderator, move that the town hear and act on the report of the Community Preservation Committee on the FY27 Community Preservation Budget and to appropriate from the Community Preservation Fund FY27 estimated annual revenues the sum of $75,000 to be expended under the direction of the Board of Selectmen to meet the administrative expenses and all other necessary and proper expenses of the Community Preservation Committee for FY27, and further, reserve for future appropriation from the fiscal year 2027 Community Preservation Fund estimated annual revenues the following sums: $190,953 for open space purposes, $190,953 for historic resources purposes, and $190,953 for the community housing purposes, and further transfer and appropriate $514,700 from the Community Preservation Fund undesignated fund balance for debt payments.
Second.
The Finance Committee unanimously recommends the passage of Article 12.
Is there any discussion?
Darrell Crossman, Chair of the CPC. The committee voted unanimously to recommend the approval of the passage of Article 12.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak on the article? Seeing none, voting is open. There are 10 seconds remaining. Voting is closed. The article passes. Article 13.
Mr. Moderator, move that the town transfer and appropriate $505,375 from the Community Preservation Act Open Space and Recreation Reserve to be expended under the direction of the Board of Selectmen for the purpose of securing professional services to design, permit, construct, and to rehabilitate and make extraordinary repairs, including all incidental and related expenses to the Oak Crest Cove multipurpose courts and associated equipment located at 34 Quaker Meeting House Road, and for sand replenishment and beach improvements, including all incidental and related expenses at Peters Pond Beach, located at 34 Quaker Meeting House Road, and Snake Pond Beach, located at 0 and 24 Snake Pond Road.
Second.
The Finance Committee unanimously recommends passage of Article 13.
Darrell Crossman, Chair of the CPC. The committee voted unanimously to recommend the approval of the passage of Article 13.
Thank you. Would anybody else wish to speak? Seeing none, then I declare the voting open. Ten seconds. Voting is closed. And the article passes. Article 14.
Mr. Moderator, move that the town transfer and appropriate $555,300 from the Community Preservation Act Open Space and Recreation Reserve and transfer and appropriate $200,000 from the Community Preservation Act undesignated fund balance to be expended under the direction of the Board of Selectmen for the purpose of securing professional services to design, permit, construct, and to rehabilitate and make extraordinary repairs to the Sandwich Middle High School multipurpose courts, associated equipment, including all incidental and related expenses located at 365 Quaker Meeting House Road.
Second.
The Finance Committee unanimously recommends passage of Article number 14.
Darrell Crossman, Chair of the CPC. The committee voted unanimously to recommend the approval of the passage of Article 14.
Thank you.
David Darling, 215 Old County Road. I suggest we vote no on this. The school, when I came here, was an inviting place. Since I've been here for 18 years, it's actually acted as if it doesn't want any non-student, non-faculty on its grounds, and I think that this should be only a school budgeted thing under their capital improvement.
Thank you. Please come to the mic, state your name and your address.
Hi, my name is Edward McKenna. I live at 9 Dale Terrace Extension in Sandwich. I disagree with that last statement. I played in the Sandwich Men's Tennis League for years, but unfortunately the courts have gotten so bad that it's difficult to play there. So the courts really need to be improved. You can't even have a high school match there. So I hope you'll pass this article. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else wish to speak? Seeing none, the voting is open. There's 10 seconds. Voting is closed. The article passes. Article 15.
Move that the town transfer and appropriate $50,000 from the Community Preservation Act Open Space and Recreation Reserve to be expended under the direction of the Board of Selectmen for the purpose of supporting the replacement and improvement of the YMCA Cape Cod Camp Linden Outdoor Adventure Learning Ropes Course, including all incidental and related expenses, located at 117 Stowe Road, and further, to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into a grant agreement with said YMCA Cape Cod on such terms and conditions as the Board of Selectmen deems appropriate, and further, to authorize the town to accept an open space and recreation restriction on a portion of said property for a term of years on such terms and conditions as the Board of Selectmen deems appropriate.
Second.
The Finance Committee does not recommend passage of Article 15 with a majority vote of 5 no, 3 yes.
Darrell Crossman, Chair of the CPC. The committee voted unanimously to recommend the passage of Article 15.
Thank you.
David Darling, 215 Old County Road. This is a dreadful idea. Please vote no. First of all, the YMCA is a nonprofit. It pays no property tax, but it has a chance to pay in lieu of property tax another payment, a pilot. It chooses not to do that. It is also very unwelcoming when I go on the Lawrence Pond with my kayak. I've been kicked off their property.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion?
Bob King, Summer Street. I serve on the CPC as well, and one of the reasons that we supported this article strongly is the need for summer camps for children in our town. I have no children, but I think if there's anybody here who does and knows about what happens when they attempt to register their children for one of the few summer programs that the Recreation Department does offer, how quickly it fills, and this is another much needed alternative for young parents with children looking for a summer camp program, and I believe it's a win-win. Thank you.
Jason Waterhouse, 20 Buckingham Drive. I do have a young child. I wasn't able to get him into one of the summer programs at the rec department, but I'm sorry, for over $1,200 for an annual membership at the Cape Cod YMCA, they can pay for their own ropes.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak? Seeing none, the voting is open. Ten seconds. Voting is closed. The article fails. Article 16.
Move that the town authorize the school committee and the Board of Selectmen to enter into a perpetual easement or a lease agreement for such a period of time as the school committee may determine for the installation, operation, and maintenance of wireless telecommunication facilities at the Sandwich Middle High School located at 365 Quaker Meeting House Road as shown on Assessor's Map 34 as Parcel 2, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30B.
Second.
No vote required by the Finance Committee, so does anybody have any discussion? Seeing none, we will open the vote in just a moment. Now it's open. Ten seconds. Voting is closed. The article passes. Article 17.
Move that the town accept and approve the terms and conditions of the tax valuation agreement from fiscal year 2027 through fiscal year 2029 between the town of Sandwich and Canal Generating LLC or an affiliate dated March 30th, 2026 and entitled Payment in Lieu of Tax Agreement, Canal Units 1 and 2, a copy of which is appended to the warrant in connection with Article 17.
Second.
The Finance Committee recommends the passage of Article 16 with a majority vote of 7 yes, 0 no, and 1 abstain.
17, Jim.
What did I say?
Said 16.
17. The Finance Committee recommends the passage of Article... I was just reading from the script here, just to be correct. The Finance Committee recommends the passage of Article 17 with a majority vote of 7 yes, 0 no, and 1 abstain.
We thought it would be helpful just to explain this one a little, where it's a little bit out of the ordinary. So this article asks town meeting to accept and approve the terms and conditions of the tax valuation agreement and corresponding payment in lieu of tax agreement between the town and Canal Generating LLC for Canal Units 1 and 2, the large power plant along the Cape Cod Canal near the Sandwich Marina. This agreement is printed in its entirety starting on page 34 of the warrant and it represents a 3-year agreement from FY27 to FY29. Units 1 and 2 are the old units constructed around the early 1970s that are housed in the very large green buildings and the 500-foot stack at the power plant facility. They should not be confused with the much newer Unit 3, which is the modern quick start facility that you can see closer to Freezer Road with the much smaller 200-foot stack. Unit 3 has its own separate 20-year tax agreement and is not part of what's before us tonight. Under state laws and regulations governing power generation facilities, power plants are valued as personal property, similar to the contents of a second home, and therefore depreciate every year by law. To help address the appropriate value of such an important class of property use, the State Department of Revenue recommends towns work out tax valuation and payment in lieu of tax agreements with owners of these facilities. These regulations are spelled out in the DOR informational release that's referenced in the warrant. The recommended agreement is 3 years in length and has a level funded payment for FY27 with 8% decreases for FY28 and 29. It should be noted the prior agreement decreased by 8% a year for the full 7-year agreement and expires at the end of this fiscal year. As an example of why the value of the older units depreciates each year, over the last several years, Units 1 and 2 have only been called online 1.2% of the time. There are provisions in the agreement if new equipment is added to the existing 2 units, other than for pollution control purposes, we will be able to capture the value of these improvements as new growth and increase the annual payments accordingly. If needed, Director of Assessing Ben Steitch and I can explain more about the agreement, which has been reviewed and approved by Special Energy Council and supported by the Select Board and Finance Committee. Thank you.
Is there any discussion? Then seeing none, we will open the voting. There are 10 seconds remaining. Voting is closed. The article passes. Now, we have an Article 18. However, before we get started with that, before the petitioner makes the motion, I understand there are passionate opinions on both sides. I only ask, please come up, speak your position. Please ask yourself when you come up, can I be respectful? Can I be clear? Can I be precise? And am I bringing something new to the table? Please speak from the podium and the podium only. Hold your applause and cheers till the end of the article. So if the petitioner would like to, he may.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town take action on Article 18 as printed in the warrant.
Do we have a second?
Second.
My name's William
Yes.
Fry, 34 Madison Drive.
Okay.
John Mawani did a lot of work on this, and he had some family problems and had to take care of them, so I'm standing in for him. So I hope I can do his work justice in this. Opting out of this simply brings us back to the law prior to October of 2024. I'd like to think that we can leave politics out of this conversation if we're capable of that. This should be a discussion using logic in regard to Chapter 135, which allows the town to opt out, and other towns have done so. I'd first and foremost would be concerned with all of you working in the town hall and the properties there. And if you so desired to carry a firearm legally and were licensed, I would agree with that. I don't go to the town hall as often as other folks probably, and therefore I think it's a safety issue for you folks who are there every day having to deal with the public, and the chances that somebody might be emotionally or criminal or mentally bent on trying to cause some kind of a horrific scene. And I think that you would be able to protect yourselves or your fellow employees. The unrestricted option of citizens or employees to exercise a legal license right to defend themselves has been going on without incident for a very long time. You could argue that it's been 400 years in this town. If not, it's been more than several decades. There are statistics that show in actual numbers licensed to carry individuals have less infractions of the law across the spectrum of the law. Chapter 135 only serves to restrict the already heavily regulated licensing program and its licensees. No criminals or mentally or emotionally hell-bent individuals will bother to consider the law, no matter who wrote it or how many votes it received. There are many things in Chapter 135 which could be debated as to the level or the lack of value in regard to safety that has been written into that law. Many individuals, more intelligent than me, continue to argue on both sides. I know this: those who break the law do not read the law or consider it when acting out. Sorry, I'm a little dry-throated here. This is logic. It's not logical to think disarming persons in town buildings will create a safer workplace. I yield.
Thank you. Please come to the microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Candy Thompson, 30 Kensington Drive. I'm seeking two clarifications, please, before the debate truly begins. The Citizen's Guide and the explanation at the back of the warrant specifically says concealed. The article itself does not. State law appears to indicate that having a license to carry means you can openly carry or have a concealed firearm. Which is correct, the article or the town's interpretation?
You want to speak for the town?
Yeah, the summaries at the back of the warrant, I draft those and I try to summarize every article in a sentence or two. So that was my understanding of what it was. I've since come to learn that I believe Massachusetts is an open carry state, but the police department strongly recommends that people conceal carry if they are given a license to carry.
So just to be sure, that's an advisory but not part of state
Yeah,
law.
100%. Yep.
Okay, my second request for clarification is to ask for the definition of firearm under the state law cited in the petition. And further, can we please be informed which firearms listed in the definition of Chapter 140, Section 121 are legal for someone who is licensed to carry?
Through you, Mr. Moderator, the statute in question that's before the meeting tonight that section does not define firearm, but it refers to Section 121 of Chapter 140, which says firearm, a stun gun, pistol, revolver, rifle, shotgun, sawed-off shotgun, large capacity firearm, assault style firearm, and machine gun.
And which of those are legal to carry with a license to carry?
I think machine guns are a
Machine
different
gun,
license. But,
machine gun requires a special license, if I'm not mistaken.
So my understanding is then that pistols, revolvers, rifles, shotguns, and stun guns would be allowed if we approve Article 18, loaded or unloaded, to be brought into places like the library, senior center, rec hall, historic town hall, open or concealed. Is that correct?
Thank you, through Mr. Moderator. That's an excellent question. The legislature, in my opinion, didn't do a terrific job of drafting this. What they did was created a year and a half ago, as the maker of the motion stated, that certain places were, quote, prohibited areas for having a firearm loaded or unloaded with a license. And the one at issue here is a place owned, leased, or under the control of state, county, or municipal government and used for the purpose of government administration, including parking areas and grounds around those buildings. And then it states, provided further that a municipality may vote to exclude its administrative buildings from being a prohibited area. Now, what administrative building means, I mean, in my opinion, that would clearly include town hall. Would it include something like the library or the DPW building where they do their administration? It's really not clear. If this were to pass tonight, I think we would need to kind of consider those issues, but it's certainly, you know, used for government administration seems to, it's pretty broad, but it's limited to those kind of things. I would just add that schools are a completely separate issue, a different statute.
I'm not arguing that. So we are indeed talking about loaded or unloaded, pistols, revolvers, rifles, shotguns, and stun guns. That's what we're talking about, yes? Right. Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Dome Jellison, 21 Piccadilly Road. I got a speech here, but
Can you please raise the mic and speak into it? Thank you.
Actually, I'm glad Candy brought up questions about the state laws and stuff, but I'd like to go a little bit further. And in the Constitution, it says, shall not be infringed. And I'm wondering why this is even on an article, if we basically got that right in the Constitution. I mean, it's not a collective one, it's an individual for each person. So my question is, why is this even an article?
That will be a question for the petitioner.
So there's no answer to that?
This is a citizen's petition, so that would
okay,
be.
all right.
Please.
Hi, Peter Bosco, 1 Mossy Bottom. I'm a friend of John's. Unfortunately, his mom fell sick and he had to go to Maine, and he asked me to speak. This state has some of the strictest laws when it comes to being able to get a firearms license. You have to take a class, and now under the new law, you also have to take firearms training. You then have to go to the police station, be fingerprinted, you have to undergo a background check, and if you pass all of that, then you can get your firearms license. You're properly vetted. When you go to purchase a firearm, you go through 2 checks, both a federal check and a state check, in order to obtain that firearm. So the people who have a license to carry, who legally carry, have been vetted by the state and are law-abiding citizens. These are not people who are going to go out and create mayhem. All this law does is try to criminalize a right that you have obtained after being properly vetted. Someone who wants to go into a town hall or any administrative office and create mayhem is not going to obey this law. All you're doing is hamstringing people who might be able to defend themselves against those that would create mayhem. And you're not doing anything good here. I know at least 2 people on that stage who work in administrative offices in this town who are licensed and properly trained. If someone with a beef goes to the town and tries to create harm, right now those people can defend themselves and their co-workers. All you're doing is taking away the right to protect themselves. There's an expression in the firearms community. When seconds count, the police are just minutes away. So if someone wants to create mayhem, they're going to. A person who is licensed to carry is not that person. All you're doing is limiting their rights and potentially turning them into a criminal unintentionally if they're carrying in their normal course of their day's duties and they forget, because when you carry all the time, it becomes a part of you, and you go into an administrative office and someone notices it and you've done nothing else wrong. You've committed a crime for no reason other than exercising your right. Is it time?
Nope.
Okay. But I yield my time. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you, everybody.
Just a reminder, when you do speak, try to speak to me, and that way, otherwise, if you face away from the mic, people can't hear you. Please.
Hi, I'm Leah Dager at 108 Dillingham Ave, and I'd like to make a motion to table this until we have more information about exactly how we're defining administratively controlled buildings by the town and exactly which weapons we're talking about, because the 2 answers we heard to the questions earlier were a little bit fuzzy.
Second.
Give us just a second. Just for clarification, is that an indefinite postponement? Sorry to make you run.
As I was here earlier, sorry. Yes, an indefinite
Thank you.
postponement, please.
All right. So we will need a second for that. Second. All right. Motion and a second. And it is debatable. So right now we are debating to indefinitely postpone the article. So if someone would like to speak on that, please.
Mr. Moderator?
Bobby.
The postponement may be a great idea, but if we're looking to protect ourselves and our neighbors and whatnot, in like the selectmen's meeting, we had an instance, we're just going to prolong this. We can come back, but just think about...
Please do not speak from your seats. Let the people speak.
What's that?
I wasn't speaking to you. I was speaking to people yelling.
Okay, so, you know, if we postpone it, we're not going to be able to protect if we do vote to opt out. I have towns here, I've got a lot of information I can give you, but it's something to think about. If we want to, you know, vote for this, then so we can start protecting our neighbors and ourselves again in you know, like board meetings and whatnot, like we've done in the past. So it's just something to think about. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak on the motion to indefinitely postpone? Oh.
So Ms. Thompson made a good point of what's written in the article. But in this state, although open carry is lawful, Massachusetts generally discourages that by lawful enforcement of firearms. To opt out of the provision under considerations intended to address the ability of properly licensed individuals to carry concealed firearms. So while you could conceivably wear a trench coat and carry a shotgun or various other firearms, it's not what the law is addressing at this point. It's generally addressing pistols or sidearms, if you will. And I request that it stays open and we make some kind of a vote this evening. Thank you.
Robert Thompson, 30 Kensington Drive. My concern is with the Sandwich Public Library. The handful of other communities in Massachusetts that have considered similar citizens' petitions have included the library among what they define as public buildings. So I would very much like to see that clarified so that we know what buildings we're voting on when we vote. So I support indefinite postponement.
Thank you.
Dennis O'Connell, 62 Main Street. I also support indefinite postponement. And I might like to add that one thing that I've heard in a lot of the discussion tonight is about licensing and how Massachusetts has very strict licensing requirements to possess and carry a firearm. The one thing everybody seems to forget is very few people that are licensed to carry are properly trained in use of force decision making. I was in the Coast Guard for 30 years. I was a firearms instructor. I'm an LTC carrier, and I just don't see the need. I just don't think people are well trained enough to make those kind of split use of force decisions, and the data supports this. More weapons, more risk. Yeah, that's how we approach it in the military.
Please hold your applause to the end of the articles.
And people who are untrained in those decisions often miss, and the bullet doesn't care. So, thank you. I yield.
Glenn McGinty, Sedgwick Lane. I just want to make a clarification on an earlier point. I am against the postponement. The article in question is about concealed handguns, and it is against state law right now, and has been for many years, to carry a long arm, either a rifle or a shotgun, and a long arm is anything other than a handgun. The only exception to that is in hunting. If actively hunting, you can carry a long arm across a state way if it's unloaded till you get to the other side of the street and continue your hunting. It is illegal to carry a long arm in this state by Massachusetts state law on a public way unless it's cased, and then it's considered under transport, unloaded, cased. And if it's a high-capacity firearm, like an AR-15 would be, even though the high-capacity magazines are illegal, it's still considered a high-capacity firearm. It has to be cased and locked. And that's the only way you can transport that on a public way in a vehicle or walking down the sidewalk or into any public building, except your own property.
So this is more, we're looking for more on the motion to indefinitely postpone.
This is against the motion to postpone because it's under state law. This is not about long arms, it's about handguns.
And please hold your applause till the end.
Hi, Pam Mulvihill, 106 Snake Pond Road. I suffer from something called hypervigilance from my past life, if you will. And when I walk around anywhere today, I am for not sending it off. However, if we do, I'd like it to come up at the next meeting we have, special or whatever. But if you walk into, let your mind be empty and walk into one of these buildings we're talking about. I walked into Town Hall today to pay my taxes, and I looked around. As I walked in, it was like, oh my God. In front of me is a wide open office of the building department. As I stepped 2 or 3 more, on my right was assessing and tax paying. Who's mad at who? Assessing and tax paying in the building probably get more grief from anybody. And then Taylor's office is off to the left. And they were all wide open. A lot of the offices in this town are wide open. Someone who has been trained in order to get their license and hopefully practices after that. But if you are trained to use your sidearm, you're going to save the lives of a few more people than the police would do in, sorry guys, 10 minutes. Okay. But if we're going to postpone, how about in the fall?
Please try to keep the points for the reason for indefinitely postponing or not. If we go
Michael
through the board.
Fergal, 44 Jarvis Street, and I'm speaking to support postponement of this. Gentleman talked about the safety of fellow citizens, the safety of town officials, the safety of our neighbors. I would think that getting accurate information, clearly defined terms in what we're voting for is worth the safety of our neighbors. Postponing to give us more information so that we can make adequate decisions for ourselves, which is what town meeting is for. If we don't have the full information, we should be allowed to postpone, as town is allowing us to do, in order to get that information to keep ourselves safe, to keep you safe. Nobody wants to not keep anybody safe. Nobody wants to put you in jeopardy. We are just simply asking for clarity, for definitions, and for specificity so that we can vote appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tracy Milton Fisher, 10 Solomon Pond Road. My father was a Secret Service agent his job was to protect the president, to shoot someone if he had to. And he told us as kids growing up, it would be the scariest moment in his life to have to aim his fire gun at another person to shoot them, even in defense of the president. I am voting to postpone this because as I look around this room, all of my neighbors, and I question, how many of you would have the nerve, the capacity, and the personal fortitude to point your gun at another human being and shoot them dead in the time that is required to make that effective? I rest.
Thank you.
My name is William Henry Young. I live at 17 Westerly Drive, Sandwich. In front of me are public servants who spend their time taking care of the business of this town. They deserve a right to be protected from anyone who enters their chamber, who enters the presence of them with a weapon of any type. I like guns. I don't have one, and there's a reason for that. But I believe in the right to have one and to carry it anywhere in this town or this nation. But I have the respect for those people up front that need that protection. That is a position I think we need to take a look at. No postponement. Let's do it tonight. Thank you.
Steve Susko, Greenville Drive, Forestdale. I think that on the issue of postponement, I would never vote to postpone a question of my civil rights. So I hope, Mr. Moderator, that the town deals with this issue tonight. I spent some time in the service, never fired a shot in anger, but learned how to handle firearms. Qualified NRA instructor, volunteer hunter safety instructor for the Commonwealth. There's a lot of talk here about how we can stop crime. During my instruction, I always told my students, you need to practice beyond this training and leave law enforcement to the professionals. My hope from being a license to carry person in this state is I would hope it would help me just egress. But, I mean, the question was raised. If somebody pointed a firearm at me, and if I was armed, yeah, I may shiver and shake, but I'll tell you what, I'd give it my best shot. What else could I do? The only other thing I would do is I would propose or just ask those people who have some collective memory of the town's history that prior to the acts of October 2024, how many assaults with firearms were there in town buildings? And Bud, you probably have some degree of historic knowledge here. I tend to think, I've lived in this town since 91. I can't recall any. Are people creating a problem that doesn't exist? And I will tell you, before October of 2024, many of your neighbors were carrying firearms into town buildings. You didn't know it, didn't bother you, didn't change your life at all. A lot of speakers have come up here and stated that it really boils down to, are you a law-abiding, compassionate kind of person? And nothing stops anybody who is hell-bent on creating a problem or mayhem anywhere, public or private. Thank you.
Good evening, Don Critchfield, 3 Boardwalk Road. It seems to me the easiest thing to do for the people in Town Hall is to have those people with weapons be given special deputization from the police department. As special deputies, you could carry your firearm and protect the folks in Town Hall. One of my concerns was that just because you have a license doesn't mean you're going to be able to use it very well. And
Is this for or against
oh,
the
it's
indefinitely
for
postponed?
postponement. I'm sorry, I forgot to say that first. For postponement. Weapons training, you can buy 100 rounds of 9mm for about $30 according to Google. It would seem, and proper training for pistol use, you should be on the range a couple of times a month. If these people are going to get their license to concealed carry into places like the library and town hall, it seems to me they ought to be required to do that kind of training. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, my name is Jim Coogan. I live at 187 Main Street. I would like to move the previous question.
Do we have a second? Okay. So then we will take a vote on moving the question. If the post, no, we're moving, yes, yeah. Thanks, Bob. So we are moving, we are voting on whether we want to move the postponement. We're going to cut off debate. So we will need a 2/3 majority on this. To move the question.
The current
moving the question we would vote on the question.
Yeah, basically the question right now is to end discussion, and then if this passes, we would immediately vote on the motion to indefinitely postpone. If this fails, discussion will continue regarding the motion to indefinitely postpone.
No, because no new motion has been made. The only motion.
And just a reminder, it is a 2/3 majority.
The motion to indefinitely postpone. To move the question to indefinitely postpone Article 18. So you don't need 2 votes. You only need 1 vote. You need 2.
To move the question, that's to vote on the motion on the floor immediately. The motion on the floor is to indefinitely postpone.
We are voting to end debate and vote and then to vote on the indefinite postponement. Yes would vote to call the question and end debate. No would not.
No, only do that for an amendment where there's a secondary motion.
Mr. King, please step to the mic.
Okay, so the first vote is to stop discussion on whether we want to postpone or not. If we vote yes, we want to stop discussion, then the next thing we vote on is whether to postpone it or not. If we vote to postpone it, we're done. If we vote not to postpone it, then we vote on Article 18. So right now we're voting to either stop discussion or not discuss. If you vote no, it means you don't want to stop talking about whether or not to postpone it. Okay? All right? If you vote yes, you want to stop talking about postponement. That's what yes means. Yes, I want to stop talking about postponement. So yes or no?
Well said, Mr. King. The voting is open. Ten seconds. Voting is closed. The motion to indefinitely to call the question passes. Now we return to the original question, Article 18. No, sorry. No, you're right. No, sorry. My bad. Yeah,
Yes means you want to
Yes,
postpone.
we are done.
No means you don't want to postpone.
Yes. So we are done with that. So, yep. Please come to the mic.
Yeah, Steve Lake, 16 Berg Ave. I just want.
Weird.
No, we're not. I asked him to read the motion completely so we know exactly what the motion is.
The motion was to vote to indefinitely postpone. It is a majority vote, and we had the majority. Yes.
I thought the clarity that was given by the gentleman here was to vote to end the discussion, not to...
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, you're right.
So we discontinued discussion
So
on the
now,
motion.
yes, it means you want to postpone. No means you don't want to postpone, and if you don't want to postpone, then we're going to vote on whether Article 18 is going to be voted on or not. So either yes is you don't. Yes means you want to postpone the article.
So-
No means no. I want to vote on it tonight.
So now the voting is open. Ten seconds. No, this is a majority. Voting is closed. Ooh. So the article is indefinitely postponed. And with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Thank you. Drive safe.